either one of these any good?
Wow, this is a good movie!
It's pretty good.
Yeah, well, the director from yesterday doesn't think so.
It stinks.
You sorry? You waste our film.
It's so bad! Welcome into another week at the movies, but I hope you're ready as we take a detour and we're going to listen and deconstruct each track of the Taylor Swift album in its entirety. No, we're not going to do that.
I think actually more people might listen.
Ouch. No, man, we've said it before. We got nothing but love for Taylor Swift, but we're actually excited as we tape this on Friday. Sunday, we have tickets to Springsteen.
That's right.
And a show that we bought these tickets for, I think, 2 full years ago.
Right, 'cause
the
he's
show has
postponed
been
it twice.
postponed twice.
Yeah.
Here in Columbus, Ohio. But he's coming on Sunday.
That's right.
And we're getting ready for that. But before that, we're going to talk some movies. And welcome to it. This is the Screening Room Podcast, and she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
We're from madwolf.com, so let's start with a horror film. We're always ready to do that. After a group of criminals kidnap the ballerina daughter of a powerful underworld figure, they retreat to an isolated mansion, unaware that they're locked inside with no normal little girl. It's Abigail.
Guys.
Oh, no.
What the fuck is that thing? We kidnapped a fucking vampire. A ballerina vampire. Okay, how do we kill a vampire? What are we talking about? Like an Anne Rice or a True Blood? You know, Twilight? Stake through the heart. Daylight is a big one.
All right, let's go kill us a fucking vampire.
Ready?
Vampire on my ass!
What can I say? I like playing with my food.
Well, I think the first thing that maybe caught our attention about this, it's the same people that did Ready or Not.
That's right.
Which was a bunch of fun. And this has similarities to that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We did love Ready or Not. That was a lot of fun. And if you remember that movie, a bride is on her wedding night, the whole family in the mansion, and what she finds out is that they're all going to try to kill her. She has to survive the night in the mansion. So this is very similar. They are all trapped inside of this mansion, and they are trying to survive the night. And the big difference is that there are no innocents this time because, you know, the main cast, they all willingly kidnapped an 11-year-old girl. And, of course, the 11-year-old girl is actually planning to eat them.
So the filmmakers are Matt Bettatelli, Open, and Tyler Gillett.
And they're part of Radio Silence, which is a kind of a production group that has have been involved in writing and directing these films, the last few Scream films, and they do a lot of other stuff. Yeah, so it seems like a little bit of a different riff on Ready or Not. Okay, we're going back to the point where we have people trapped in a mansion and there's a hunt going on. Right. But as you say, this time no one is innocent, and the people who are being hunted originally felt that all they have to do is wait out the night for this girl that they've kidnapped, and then they'll get the ransom. They'll get the ransom. Yep. And you know, they're under the impression that the hard part is over, and that was the kidnapping itself, of course. And you know, it is fun. And it's bloody. It takes a while to get bloody, but when it does, man, it's a mess. Yeah, it is rated R. And then the cast, you spend most of your time with the kidnappers, and among them is Dan Stevens, who is just everywhere right now. And it's about time. Dan Stevens is great. He's great in everything.
But you're right, he is.
Fan.
And sometimes, you know, they can't control that. It's something that maybe they might have made years ago, but things get released, boom, boom, boom. And it seems that's happening for him. Right, because he was just in Godzilla X Kong, the love story, and he's got Cuckoo coming up, which of the three I'm the most excited about. That looks awesome. And he's kind of the leader of the group of kidnappers. None of them know each other. They don't know each other's real names. They all go by Rat Pack names. So he's Frank. Yep. You know, and then Melissa Barrera from the Scream films, she's Joey, and she's really the brains of the operation, and she's really our main character. But also Catherine Newton from
she was just in Lisa Frankenstein. We really loved her in
Freaky. If you go back to Freaky,
yeah.
she was in that.
She's in all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, she's been in a lot of those.
You've got Kevin Durant, who's just that guy. You'll know his face, especially if you've seen any bad action films. And, and they all play a different type of character, and they do a good job of it. And there's some really good sort of, repartee among them. They're likable. You care about all of them. Dan Stevens has the best role. He does a really good job in it.
Yeah, and playing Abigail is Alicia Weir, who we just talked about. She was the daughter in Wicked Little Letters.
Right.
I know a lot of people haven't seen that. But,
but she's also Matilda in Matilda the musical.
Exactly, and she's good.
Yeah, she is. She's good in this movie. I mean, you never really know with a dancer whether, they cut back and forth, and they may cut back and forth, but she plays a little ballerina, and she definitely makes ballet seem menacing. And she does a really good job of oscillating between the frightened child and the, hundreds of year old monster who looks like a frightened child who is just toying with these people. And it's a fun movie. I enjoyed it. I think the drawback is that it doesn't go anywhere you don't expect it to in particular. You know what I mean? It's not really going to stick with you. I really enjoy Ready or Not. I would go back to that again and again. It said kind of bigger things. And this feels like, kind of a more shallow riff on that same formula.
Right.
So it isn't one that, I feel like you're going to revisit yearly or anything like that. But it's fun to watch.
Yeah. And it's just under 2 hours, so it doesn't overstay its welcome either. So just a fun ride that does get bloody.
Oh, it
just
does.
have to wait it out a little bit, but it will. And so we got a recommendation for Abigail, which is in the theaters now. Well, let's stay in the theaters for the latest from director Guy Ritchie. The British military recruits a small group of highly skilled soldiers to strike against German forces behind enemy lines during World War II. It's the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
This is an unsanctioned, unauthorized mission. If we fail, England will be condemned to a lifetime under the German boot.
And so I said, that is not a dog. That is my wife.
It's very good.
You and your operation are reckless.
Abort this mission now.
Hello? Can't hear you. Please do off.
This just immediately becomes more interesting to me based on the fact that it is based on true events.
Yeah, the opening text on the screen tells you that it's based on files that were declassified in 2016 from Winston Churchill about this actual operation that was going on in 1942. It's a fascinating piece of history. It really is. And it was led by a guy named Gus March Phillips, who was played by Henry Cavill. And apparently also that character, real guy, maybe was the inspiration for Ian Fleming to write James Bond, because Ian Fleming is also a character in this movie because he really did serve in the British Naval Intelligence during that time. So there's a possibility that this whole operation was an inspiration for James Bond. Because it is very, spying behind enemy lines type of thing. Because it was a total off-the-books type of operation, early black ops, I guess. And Churchill himself told these guys, they recruited them because March Phillips, he's sort of a disgraced military man. He's a rogue, goes on his own way. And that's what they need for this, because it's off the books. And if they get caught by the British, their own people, they're going to be arrested. And people that put them up to it will be disavowed. And, of course, they're caught by the Germans. They'll be tortured and killed. So, yay. But Gus recruits a bunch of other rogues played by Alan Rickson, who has been getting some nice headlines lately. We like him. Alex Pettifer, Hero Finds Tiffin, Henry Goulding is another one. And, by the way, Churchill is played by Rory Kinnear.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, under some serious makeup. Yeah,
he's good under serious makeup.
Yeah, he is. So basically what they're doing, this is before the American side has joined the war. And to try to pave the way for them to do that, the secret mission is trying to cut off supplies to the German U-boats, because the German U-boats have continued to be such a problem for the British side. There's no way they can take them out, so they figure they're going to cut off their supply line and render them useless. So that's the plan, and they're going to this island off the coast of Africa. That's where they're refueling and resupplying these U-boats, and that's where everything is targeted. And it is a very interesting story. I just think Guy Ritchie's treatment of it was a little too in the middle, because if you watch the trailer, you think, okay,
it's a Guy Ritchie movie.
It's a Guy Ritchie movie, lots of fun, and it's not enough. It's amusing. It's got those droll British asides, sort of humor, but it's never actually outright funny, and it doesn't have as much of that breakneck crazy action that a lot of his films do. There's a lot of things blow up, definitely, and a lot of Nazis are killed, and that's not a problem.
No.
But we don't know. In fact, most of us, I would guess, don't know about this operation and what happened to these real people. So we don't know if they lived or died, but there's never really any tension. The characters sort of walk through things like, they know they're bulletproof, all these flying bullets. Oh, I can just stop here for a minute and say something drolly funny because I'm really not in trouble. And so that doesn't create tension for us. I think the one character really that is successful is played by Isa Gonzalez, Marjorie Stewart. She was an actress and a singer and a bit of a spy on this operation. And her mission is to go and keep the attention of one of the leaders there of the Nazi operation with the U-boats and keep him occupied and out of the way. And once she may or may not be found out, there's some tension there. Like,
sure.
she's in trouble here. But other than that, it just seems like these guys are superheroes. We laugh at these guns in our faces because we know we're going to get out of this. So that hurts a little bit. But it is an interesting story. I'd like to know more about it.
Right.
But it seems like it needed either a straight accounting type of action thriller or the full Guy Ritchie treatment. And I sort of wish, since it was Guy Ritchie, that he would have gone a little more over the top in that direction to make it more fun. Because as it is now, and it's about a full 2 hours, it starts to drag a little bit. Even with all the things that are exploding, you do kind of start looking, what time is it? And that's not a good thing, because it is a very interesting slice of history. And definitely hang around. You don't have to hang around too long when the credits start rolling, because they do update you about what happened to these actual people, and you see the pictures and get a little bit more acquainted with the real people. I actually get the feeling, the film gives you the feeling like maybe they tried to include a little bit too much of the real story, because sometimes the details are repeated again and again, and then when things go a little bit awry and they have to adjust their plan on the fly, there's a lot of talking. It seems like, I don't know, but it seems like they maybe tried to stick a little too closely to the real story. They could have streamlined it just a little bit, maybe shaved 15, 20 minutes off of it, and then the script wouldn't seem like it's going over territory we've already gone over. Might have helped a little bit. But overall, I think it is worthwhile. Just it seemed a little more of a lost opportunity to maybe go full Guy Ritchie. And I know he's had, in the last couple of films, he's had some successes with The Interpreter, scaled that back on his trademark type of movie, and it was quite successful. I thought that was one of his better films in quite a while. But this one sort of goes to his usual shtick, but not far enough, at least for me. So especially with the trailer, kind of teases a certain treatment that it doesn't completely get. But still, overall, I think we'll give it a recommendation. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, and it is in theaters now. We'll stay in theaters for an interesting film. This is an action-adventure comedy, a year in the life of a unique family. It captures the daily life of the Sasquatch with a level of detail and rigor that is simply unforgettable. Sasquatch Sunset. This is director is David Zellner and Nathan Zellner, and the writer is David Zellner. And they've done a couple of films that we loved. Kamiko the Treasure Hunter, loved it.
And also Damsel,
Yeah.
Love that
Oh,
too.
yeah.
And
A
it's
Western.
Funny, a Western. They're such, the two films that they've made before Sasquatch Sunset, they're so wildly different. The style, the approach, but really, really good. But still, I don't think that prepared us for this film.
No, speaking of wildly different, yeah, it follows a Sasquatch family over the course of a year. It's separated sort of into chapters by the seasons. Starts off in spring and then goes through. And Nathan Zellner also plays one of the Sasquatch underneath a bunch of makeup, obviously. And a couple of the others are played by Jesse Eisenberg and Riley Keough. Now, Riley Keough is also one of the producers.
Yes.
And it's an interesting, one of the many interesting things about this movie is you're casting name actors who are unrecognizable under this makeup, and they don't really speak. All they do is grunt and make noises.
Yeah, there is no dialogue.
No dialogue.
There's no dialogue in the entire film.
So that's one of the many interesting things about this movie, and it's comedy. It is funny. It is funny in a lot of areas. Be ready, though. There's a lot of bathroom humor.
Yes.
A lot of...
There are no bathrooms, but there's a lot of bathroom humor.
Yeah, a lot of poo being flung.
Yes.
And other...
Territory being marked.
Yeah, that's right. Bodily functions and fluids. But then, just when you're sort of used to that slapstick kind of thing, we're laughing at these Sasquatch, then it starts to get touching and starts to get even heartbreaking.
Yes.
And you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
And yet somehow it actually works and it all fits together.
It works really well.
It really does.
In following them through an entire season, you're first of all, you get to know them even though they're not speaking, right? You really do. You get to know these four characters. And you get a sense of how human intervention is screwing up where they live, what they do. Also, you get to follow, really, and it's Riley Keough's character, but just what it's like for her through the course of a year. And then the other thing, I think, from the very beginning, they do this thing where they like knock on trees together, like 1, 2, 3, knock, knock, knock on trees, and then they sort of let out this little howl. And it's clear that during the course of the year, they're searching for others like themselves. And so there's a lot about the film that feels kind of universal and human.
Yes.
And really does wind up being heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is, because it does bring into the picture comments on ecology and nature and the delicate balance of nature and how man can be intruding on that. In this case, like you said, on their habitat. And they're longing for maybe others, and then things happen that are really heart-tugging.
Yes, really, really
in the middle of all this silly
throwing.
humor.
Yeah.
Exactly. And of course, they face dangers out in the wild. And I think one of the very interesting things about this is they're not portrayed as predators. They're only eating like berries and leaves and things like that. But yet, maybe they are being in danger from other predators, which I thought was an interesting choice too, because we don't know what Sasquatch are really like.
No.
Maybe they are predators. Maybe we shouldn't be scared of them. I don't know. But it's such an interesting film and such an interesting project for these filmmakers to take on, for any filmmakers to take on, because it's just nothing like you've ever seen. But no matter what they're doing, the silliness, the bathroom humor, or the heartbreaking stuff, the film is totally committed to it.
It is.
Totally.
And the thing is, it's fascinating. I mean, you are just sucked into it
You
the
really
whole
are.
time.
You definitely are. And I also had to, it's barely 90 minutes.
Right.
So you're not bored.
No.
You're really not bored at all. And then it leads up to, I think, just a great final shot that sort of encapsulates the wry humor at the heart of this thing that I really appreciated. So big recommendation for this. I mean, everybody that we've talked to about it, they're like, what?
Yeah.
What is it about?
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, you could very well be charmed by it easily, and you'll laugh. You'll laugh with it too. And this is out in actually a lot of theaters. I'm kind of surprised this is getting as wide of a release as it is. But that's a good thing, and I'd love to see it do well. And it's out this weekend, called Sasquatch Sunset. Boy, a really interesting comedy next. This is one we've known about for a while. It's nice to see this getting a wider release. An aspiring clown grappling with her gender identity combats a fascistic, caped crusader in The People's Joker.
It was foretold that someday a clown would rise.
Sounds pretentious.
It is.
Whatever you say, Mr. J.
Hunka hunka.
Now you must journey inside yourself.
I'm not a hero, and I'm not a villain either.
So who are you?
I'm a woman of my word.
I thought clowns were supposed to be funny.
This was a big hit at the last Nightmares Film Festival here in Columbus, Ohio. Every October, it's a great film festival. I know you're probably tired of hearing us say that, but great films come out of it like this. And it was a big hit there, and I think, boy, if this finds its audience, I'll be happy because it could be a real crowd pleaser.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting story. It had its premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival, where Warner Brothers promptly shut it down because of copyright infringement. But that is so really a perfect reaction for the film itself because of what it is saying and doing. And it's a fascinating, unfortunately, it's the second most unique film of this week, but it very much is. So the Joker, as a little boy, he finds himself pretending to be happy to please his overbearing mother.
And by the way, can I just say, that kid, I thought he was great.
He was
as
great.
The young Joker. He's named Griffin Kramer. Your heart's sick for him.
Yeah,
his face, and he's afraid that his mom is mad, and I thought he was really good.
He was. I agree with you. He was really, really good. And so they put him on Smilex, a drug. It's an inhaler, really, that helps him force a smile and pretend to be happy. And then they move. They go to Gotham City, which is a cesspool, and at that point try to become a comic. So once you're in Gotham, it's an interesting take. So the main core story is about this character's transition. They're transitioning, and then on the outside, they go from being sort of this just bad stand-up comic to being a character, the Joker, to being Harlequin character, and so in that way it mirrors the personal transition really, really well. It's sort of a coming-of-age love story where she falls for somebody else who's transitioning, Mr. J. At the same time, it's so steeped in the comic book culture. It's just, clearly Vera Drew, who is the writer, director, editor, star, and it's also, it's so she clearly really, really knows this material to the degree that she can really manipulate these concepts to elevate a coming-of-age sort of transition story. Also, I should say, a lot of it is live action, but it's kind of sutured together with this collage-style animation that is fascinating and perfectly fits this outsider art theme.
And it feels like maybe a comic book homage, things like that, and it brings in lots of popular culture. It name drops some people that you'll know from it's not called Saturday Night Live in this movie, but you can tell that's what they're talking about, a Saturday Night Live type of show.
Especially because Lorne Michaels
that's one of the guys.
Is a character, I'm sure against his will, but that's one of the things I found the most fascinating. It wouldn't work if it weren't for the core story, which is this love story, coming-of-age transition, which is brilliant and incredibly moving and heartwarming and tragic and just really well done. But the context of the way that sort of billionaires, corporations have stolen the soul of what used to be outsider art, which would be comics and stand-up comedy, is also incredibly smart.
Mm-hmm. It is. And for anybody that has talked about superhero film fatigue, which, is that's fair. Yep. That's fair criticism. Here's a totally different type of superhero movie that is so original, and this is right up your alley if you've ever felt that way about superhero films.
Oh, yeah. It's so enjoyable. It's so smart and well made. Vera Drew comes from, she did a lot of editing for actual alt comedy for a long time. And some of the people from that landscape populate this film as well. But boy, I just can't wait to see the next thing she does.
Yeah, and it's another one. This is a good week for really original content.
Yes.
Things that you haven't really seen before, different takes on different genres. And this is a good week because we've got two of them right here. And this is one, and it's out now, called The People's Joker. Check it out. This is one out in some theaters now and also for streaming. Day-and-date release, action crime thriller about Cliff, a traveling salesman drowning under the weight of providing for his family and the myth of the American dream, finding himself on a dangerous path after a chance encounter with Ricky, a colleague from a dark past. It's called Blood for Dust.
I don't need a salesman. I'm sorry.
We need money.
I'll try. All I need is something that pays.
Well, I didn't think you'd call me.
Risks?
Getting caught.
How much?
The only thing that matters is that you are a man that no one would expect.
Did you expect me tonight?
Well, he's the perfect cover.
Now I'm gonna say this once. We are in a deal. Everything you are connected to will die.
How's that for a school, man?
How do I know you're not gonna do that to me?
If I wanted you gone, you'd be gone.
We don't like anybody who takes what's ours.
Every scheme needs a scapegoat.
Think what you're doing doesn't have an expiration date?
Get out. Get out big.
Scoot McNairy.
Scoot.
I love him.
Yes, he's been so good in many supporting roles where he gets a chance here to be the lead, and he's very good, and the ensemble is good. And here's one that really benefits from, I'll be honest, I had lower expectations for this movie because it's cowboy noir.
There's a lot of
right?
those. A lot of those that go straight to streaming. A lot of those that aren't very original or unique or interesting.
Exactly. And we've seen this sort of thing a million times before, but it finds a way to do its own thing and be worthwhile. It's by co-writer and director Rod Blackhurst. And yeah, Scoot is Cliff, and he is this, as the synopsis says, he's a traveling salesman. He's sold many things in his career, and he's got money troubles. You find out that there's a dark event in his past, something that he was involved with, may or may not have been responsible for this tragic event, but this is in his past and something that still haunts him, and he tries to move on and again try to get out from under the weight of this debt. And so events conspire to him looking up his old buddy Ricky, played by Kit Harington, who's also very good.
Good.
And here's another example of the British guys and girls being able to do American accents a lot better than vice versa.
Right.
Because he sounds very authentic with this type of guy who's pretty shady, and he's got this new score, of course, that he wants to bring his friend Cliff in on, and it has to do with running drugs and guns for bigger boss type of character played by Josh Lucas, who's got a small part. And then you also find Stephen Dorff. He's got one scene.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, Stephen Dorff comes in and comes out. So overall, it's a good, really effective ensemble, even if some of the name actors that you know aren't in it very long. But so you've got this big score. They're going to run the drugs and get the money, and of course there's a lot of tension involved because if anything goes wrong, Josh Lucas and his guys are going to make you pay. We've seen these themes a lot, but it's tense and it's well done. It's well shot. I'll tell you, there's a couple of instances the camera work is very nice, very nimble out. There's one scene sort of from behind a character with a big herd of cattle in the distance. Very nice. Really, really well shot, well directed, well acted. So yes, you've seen all this before. You can probably guess that things aren't going to go perfectly in this big score where everything is going to turn out okay.
Because they wouldn't have made a movie about it if it did.
Exactly. Everybody's happy now. Everybody
Look,
walks
it all
away.
Worked out.
Nobody double crosses
Scoot's good
anyone.
now.
Exactly. But it will hold your attention, and it is well done. It's one of the better of these. And this is another one that's it's pretty quick. It's only just a little bit over 90 minutes. So it gets in and gets it done. And it's just a nice example of the fact that you can go into a genre like this, a well-worn genre, down a very familiar road and find your way to do it effectively. And of course, good writing and a good cast always helps.
Yes.
And it definitely helps here. And this is one that we enjoyed, out in theaters now, in select theaters and on VOD, called Blood for Dust. Let's stay in VOD for a drama. In an alternate world where hearts are made of objects and suppressing emotions is self-care, a lonely woman rips out her own heart for the man she loves, only to discover that he has run away with it. This is called With Love and a Major Organ.
I still can't believe you don't want to use this app. It does everything.
It could even help you meet someone.
What's the latest news?
A new shooting, a new war, a new virus.
No, never mind.
Well, you don't have to worry. This is yesterday's paper.
You're reading yesterday's news.
That way I know everything worked out okay.
Someone to touch me so badly it hurts.
You need to exercise your emotions, violently suppress them.
I'm sick of feeling like this. It's like carrying around sludge in my gut.
You get so caught up in your own feelings that you don't listen to anyone else's.
I think I'm fixed. I just stopped caring about other people's problems.
What has gotten into you?
I can let things go. I can let people go too.
Here is another movie that is very much unlike anything else you've seen.
Good week for that,
It
yeah.
is a good week for that. I was really impressed by this. It's so lyrical and poetic. I don't want to say it's absurd because it absolutely lacks that sort of cynicism and bite.
No, if you want absurd, go to Sasquatch.
Right?
But good absurd.
Annabelle is the main character, played by Anna Maguire, beautifully. And she just sees herself surrounded. It's like everyone in life is doing what they can to just not have emotions. And she's just got a wild and unruly heart. And she likes it that way. And she doesn't want to not, but it just creates such messiness everywhere she goes. And she sees a man as she's sitting outside. He's reading a newspaper. And she doesn't read the newspaper because too much of it is unhappy news. Mm-hmm. So he tears out just the happy news and he hands it to her. And she decides at that moment she is in love with George.
Love it.
And so she tape records on a cassette, a note of love to him. And eventually, and he has to say no because he doesn't, in fact, have a heart. So when she tears out her own as a gift to him, well, then he puts it in his own chest and finds that he loves this unruliness. And so then he runs away with it. So that's the heart, if you will, of the story. And it's just lovely. It's so well made. It's entertaining. It's endearing. It's unique.
You know what the premise reminded me a little bit of? The Lobster.
Okay.
And just that very detached, no emotion.
Right.
Everything is very detached, and it's a little bit like that. Of course, it goes off in different directions, but it reminded me of that sort of mindset, I guess.
Yes. This is a much more romantic film, though. As I say, it's very poetic. It's just, I really think, especially if you're a romantic, you should seek this one out.
And this is writer Julia Lederer and director Kim Albright. And yeah, all three of these really original movies we're talking about this week, it's just another example of the kinds of films we bring up when we say, look, when you hear that common argument out there, there's nothing but superhero movies and sequels. Okay, there are a lot of those, but there are other films out there. They're harder to find a lot of times, but sometimes now with all the different streaming platforms, maybe they're not as hard as they used to be, but
right.
They're out there.
Yeah, and this is one, honestly, too, and it's streaming. Give it a look if you can. With Love and a Major Organ.
Yeah, that is out on streaming now. A good one. And one more this week, a comedy also in select theaters and on VOD. After the death of their boss, Beatrix, Kane and Harold are left destitute, living in an abandoned grocery store. Beatrix is determined that they will fight on their own and take over the world by any means necessary. It's called Villains Incorporated.
Did you take over the world?
No.
Can't hear you. Did you take over the world?
No.
Well, payment denied.
I understand your concern, but world domination is not going to fund itself.
You don't even have any powers.
Actually, I took 2 years of necromancy in high school, so I can kind of talk to the dead.
You should be able to shoot like fire or lasers or something out of your eyes.
You know I can't do that. We're not getting paid again, are we?
Rachel Willis reviewed this one for us at madwolf.com. And, it's one of those films that has a lot going for it, but it just can't seem to find its groove. It's a funny concept. These three henchmen, they see their super villain get killed, and then they decide, well, why can't we be a super villain? And then they just flounder and fail. And it should. The performances are good. The concept is good. The writing is a little lacking. It takes a long time to get anywhere. It feels like a strung together bunch of sketches without much purpose.
The director and co-writer is Jeremy Warner. In the cast, you may recognize longtime funny man Colin Mockery. fans of Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Sure.
Love Colin Mockery. So, yeah, it's an interesting premise that Rachel thought just didn't really capitalize on the promise that it held. And you can check out her full review at madwolf.com, but this one is out in the select theaters and VOD now, called Villains Incorporated. Okay, let's head off to the lobby.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
It's time to schlock and roll back in the lobby with Daniel Baldwin, a.k.a. the Schlocketeer, hipping us to the latest news. What's going on?
All right. Well, first up, in terms of things that people can watch very soon, Dev Patel's Monkey Man will hit VOD on April 23rd, followed by Love Lies Bleeding 3 days later on April 26th.
A couple of good ones.
Yes. And then Nicolas Cage's Arcadian hits VOD on May 1st. Rolling back the clock a little bit, there's a newly remastered version of the 1970s Beatles documentary Let It Be that's hitting Disney Plus on May 8th. Peter Jackson supervised the remaster on it.
Okay.
And then Kairos Turner's Big Spider Run Amok movie Sting hits VOD on May 14th.
So fun!
And then moving into summer with theatrical stuff, A24 has set a June 21st theatrical release for their drama Janet Planet. And back to streaming a bit, Amazon has set a July 18th streaming premiere for the Dave Bautista action comedy sequel My Spy, The Eternal City.
Oh, you know what? That was surprisingly, I remember My Spy. Yeah, I was surprised by it. It was better than most of those.
It was pretty fun. There's a serial killer thriller called Strange Darling hitting theaters on August 23rd. It stars Kyle Gallner, Barbara Hershey, and Giovanni Ribisi.
That's a good cast.
Mm-hmm.
And Ed Begley Jr.
Oh, wow. Okay, sure, absolutely.
Why not?
Disney and Searchlight Pictures have set an October 18th theatrical release for their dramedy A Real Pain, which stars Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin.
As Sasquatches?
No.
Moving into next year, Universal has announced a Valentine's Day 2025 release on Peacock for Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy. So another one of those on the way.
Wow, Bridget Jones is back. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah. Universal and DreamWorks have set an August 1st, 2025 theatrical release for their animated sequel, The Bad Guys 2. And Disney has set an October 2025 release for Tron Ares, which is, I guess, a standalone sequel and not directly connected to the previous 2010 film.
Okay.
Universal set an October 2025 theatrical release for Five Nights at Freddy's 2. And then, due to production delays, Lionsgate has pushed back the release of Saw 11 from this year to October of next year. Similarly, due to prolonged strike issues, Warner Brothers has pushed back the release of Matt Reeves' The Batman Part 2 from October of next year to October 2026.
Ooh.
But they gave its October 2025 slot to The Bride, which is Maggie Gyllenhaal's take on The Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Stars Christian Bale, Jesse Buckley, Penelope Cruz, Julian Ho, and Peter Sarsgaard. So nice star-studded cast on that one.
Good cast.
And that's all I've got for you.
Okay, well, thank you as always, and you can catch up with Daniel on the socials at The Schlocketeer for all the latest. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Looking ahead to next week, the new one from Luca Guadagnino, The Challengers, is out.
Also, Boy Kills World.
One called The Beast.
Infested.
And Dancing Village, The Curse Begins. That's all next week. But what about this week? Boy, a lot of wildly different films to talk about this week. Those couple at the top, Ungentlemanly Warfare and Abigail, and then The Sasquatch and The People's Joker. So much going on. If you want to continue the conversation, we are always up for that. You can find us easily on Instagram and Threads and Facebook at Mad Wolf Columbus. Also, the main website, madwolf.com, where you can find all of our written reviews and other fun stuff, including our horror movie only podcast called Fright Club. That's all there at madwolf.com. So keep in touch, enjoy the movies, and we'll chat again next week. Until then, she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Screening Room Podcast.
See ya.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap.